Welcome to the Best Sports Betting Podcast, where we'll talk about reviews, previews, tips and all things betting related. Brought to you by bestsportsbetting.co.za. Now, on to our hosts.
How's it, punters? Welcome back to the Best Sports Betting Podcast. We've got a kind of slow episode today, not too much going on sports-wise in the Premier League and the other football leagues. So we're going to chat a bit about some of the other European leagues. Some F1, we're going to have a quick chat about the IPL, what's happening there, as well as other sports news. Simon, our betting weekend wasn't great. I went on Arsenal for the Europa League. We liked West Ham playing against my bogey team Everton. Everton somehow beat West Ham away from home. It's kind of spoiling their chances for the top four. What were your thoughts on the weekend's action?
Yeah, sure. It really was another disappointing week for us. As you said, I really expected West Ham to get it done against Everton, and they lost. And then also PSG didn't notch one goal against City in the Champions League. And I really thought there was a very nice chance of them scoring 2 goals there. So, yeah, really not great from a betting perspective from us.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some interesting results to chat about, and I think that's what we'll jump into first. Let's start off with the older ones, the Europa and the Champions League. The Champions League went pretty much, I don't want to say, according to the odds, City winning 2-0, Chelsea winning 2-0, neither Madrid or PSG offering up too much resistance there. Fortunately, we have a Champions League final with 2 English sides, not too keen on that, but I guess in the Europa League it's a little different with United taking on Villarreal in the final. I don't know how Arsenal did not get past Villarreal, hitting the post so many chances. I had a big bet on them as well. I also took a nice boost that was Roma and Arsenal to win. I think it was 8.0 or something like that on Palace Bet. And unfortunately, that didn't come in, even though it probably should have. What were your thoughts on those games? I mean, I think the Roma one's the biggest upset, but possibly,
it is. It is for sure. And just going back to what you said about 2 English sides being in the Champions League again. Yeah, so in 2019 we had Liverpool and Spurs. Which was, I think, the first time in a number of years that 2 English sides have been, possibly even over a decade, the 2 English sides have been in the Champions League final. So we have it again. So yeah, I agree with you. As much as it's not really, perhaps not always, seeing that South Africans follow the EPL really closely, you could sort of make the argument that because they follow the EPL religiously, it isn't exactly the final we're hoping for, but it is obviously encouraging for the state of English football. Looking back at the Champions League semi-finals, I mean, both home teams won 2-0. I mean, Chelsea were just as clinical in their performance against Real Madrid as City were against PSG. And as I said, I just can't believe that PSG did notch a goal there. I really expected them to come out firing. So very, very impressive from Man City to end up with a clean sheet there.
Yeah, especially considering the EPL result on the weekend where the kind of curtain raisers you mentioned last week with City taking on Chelsea in the Premier League, and we'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, I thought the games were interesting. They were good enough. A little bit disappointed with some of the results, but I mean that's football, and I think the biggest kind of takeaway is just not to trust Arsenal going forward. I mean, wow, really spurned so many chances against Villarreal. It really should be an Arsenal versus United final. But well done to Villarreal for going to Arsenal and coming back with a point. Not just a point, the actual going through to the final. And you really thought you got to wonder what they're going to do at Arsenal. I mean, Arteta surely has to go now. They're not sitting in a Europa League qualifying place. They've got no chance of winning any silverware. I mean, the experiment is pretty much done. He's playing players out of position. I really wonder why he's still at Arsenal. Considering if you look at other teams, how many managers have been sacked this season.
Yeah, and obviously there's a talk of potential new ownership actually being, and this might be slightly old news now, but Daniel Ek, the owner of Spotify, is supposedly putting up a bid for them. A lot of the fans are very into that idea, so we'll see what happens. But
it's been shot down there. They've shot it down numerous times, saying he's not selling. So I think it would be great to have a fan in charge, but the man has all the money, but the will to sell just isn't there.
Sure, but as you say, something certainly needs to change there.
And then jumping back to the Premier League, we had City losing 2-1 rather to Chelsea at home. And that was a bit of an upset. I didn't see that one coming. You maybe saw like a draw. I didn't think Chelsea were going to walk away with 2 goals against City. But...
I mean, they had a brilliant second half. Obviously, managing to beat the sort of soon-to-be Premier League champions is a good result anytime. But, this kind of does, as you say, we talk about it as being the sort of curtain raiser for the Champions League. And I suppose, that is a very positive result for Chelsea, and it'll definitely give them some hope going into the Champions League final in 3 weeks' time. I mean, there's no doubt that City will still be favourites, but I think that is kind of the game that people wanted to see, knowing that the Champions League between the same two sides was coming up. But I think the biggest result, certainly the best result from my perspective, was a 4-2 win for Newcastle over City.
Somehow.
Yeah.
I actually backed Leicester that game. They were part of an accumulator. They were playing at home. I thought it was a given, and nope.
Yeah, I mean, I said last week it would be typical for Newcastle to play ridiculously well, after losing to Arsenal, which obviously wasn't any great surprise last week. But yeah, they did it again. They're just such a seesaw side. So,
but guaranteeing themselves, a spot in the league next season. I think it was Fulham who was it that was actually officially relegated over the weekend.
Fulham and Sheffield.
Okay.
Correct. And then another shock result. Obviously, perhaps not as of a shock result, but was Leeds beating Spurs 3-1.
Yes.
And I must say, I looked at the stat sheet for that one. I didn't watch the game, but I mean, Leeds really dominated them in every part of the field. And they're actually, I mean, Spurs are now 7 points below Champions League places. So time, I think, is pretty much running out, if not has already run out for them to claim a top 4 finish. So yeah, Spurs was really kind of fizzling out towards the end of the season, I feel.
Yeah, I think they've had a season to forget, especially compared to some of the last seasons. But them and Arsenal as well. I think they've both been 2 of the biggest kind of disappointments this season. Liverpool as well, obviously being reigning champions, but I think those 2 teams have really not improved they've really gone backwards, considering their performances last season.
Certainly, yeah.
I mean, look, Spurs aren't even getting into the Europa League at this point, so difficult for them. But let's have a look at some of the upcoming games. Not too much to get excited about. There's Chelsea versus Arsenal tomorrow. I think that's the only... That and Man United Liverpool, I guess, for a midweek fixture. But other than that, there's a lot coming in hard and fast, but there's not too many games other than those 2 to get excited about, in my opinion. Mostly midweek fixtures rather than the weekend, which looks pretty bare.
Yeah, I think the midweek games look pretty good. Man United hosting Leicester at Old Trafford tonight, and then obviously the Gunners going to Stamford Bridge to face, let's be honest, a pretty buoyant Chelsea. I think that could be quite a good one. I mean, looking at the odds on those ones, I mean, Chelsea 7-10 favourites.
Give me that. I'll take that all day. Against this current Arsenal side, I think that's pretty fair.
It looks fair. It looks absolutely fair. I think something counting in Arsenal's favour is they haven't lost one. They've only lost one match of their last 10 away from home, believe it or not. So, look, if those odds of 4-1 maybe look quite big for an away win, but that's a tricky bet to make. And then, of course, on Thursday is the postponed match, which didn't happen last week due to the protests at Old Trafford between Man United and Liverpool. And United look a big price for this, but they're 21-10, so 3.1. But it's probably because of the fact that they obviously played on Sunday against Aston Villa, who they beat, and they're going to play on Tuesday against Leicester, and then Liverpool obviously on the Thursday. So that's quite a lot of football in 1 week. So, I kind of want to back United here, but I'm worried that they'll be sort of a bit burnt out for this. And obviously, there's also the question around, what kind of atmosphere is there going to be in that home game? Since the protests, it might be a little strange. I mean, I've heard there's going to be extra security and this and that. You just might feel the players might kind of be almost watching their back a bit. I just don't know if it's the best atmosphere for a home game.
It's going to be a tense atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's playing a lot into that price. But I still was quite surprised to see them. I mean, over 2-1 on a home win against Liverpool.
Yeah, and you also have Liverpool here chasing a top 4 spot. So
yeah, So yeah, it's one of those ones where I look at that Man United price and I think it's quite big, but there are quite a few factors to consider there. So yeah, it's one I think I'll leave alone.
Yeah, I mean, I fancy United here just on paper. I just can't take Liverpool at that price. I think 2.2 away to United is absolutely crazy, considering that there's honestly a massive gulf between these two sides. To put in perspective, United have 70 points this season. They're sitting second on the table. Liverpool have 57 points. It's 13 points behind United. I mean, it's crazy. They're sitting behind West Ham and Leicester. So where this 2.2 comes from, and I get that there's a whole lot of games coming, as you said, thick and fast for United. But I just think that's a little crazy. I think the United-Leicester game is going to play a lot into that one, depending on what happens there.
Absolutely, yeah. But so the bookie's not really taking a neutral position there. They definitely think United's busy schedule, and perhaps the atmosphere around the protest is going to take a toll on them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's also, as you mentioned, one to kind of stay away from. I will be backing, I think, Chelsea to beat Arsenal. I think that one, it's two sides on opposite trajectories. One's in the Champions League final. I don't care how many games they're playing this week. I don't care about how well Arsenal are playing away from home. For me, it's one of the best sides in the league against one of the sides that's in massive decline at the moment. And if Arsenal get anything out of this game, then credit to them. I think they'll have beaten the odds. But I just think it's going to be a comfortable Chelsea win. I don't even think Arsenal will put up too much resistance against their London rivals. But it should be an interesting one. Hopefully the Man United game lives up to its billing as what it kind of should be on paper. But not really too sure. Then we have a few interesting games of the weekend. We have West Ham taking on Brighton, and I think there's some value backing West Ham here at 2.5, especially considering that they are just like 5 points off Leicester in that race with 3 games left for the Champions League places. So, I mean, Leicester have some tough games, but West Ham have a chance here to pick up 3 points on them.
Yeah, no, I also looked at that price and I thought it looked quite interesting. Two games which stood out to me on this week's card was, and again this is a tricky one, but Newcastle take on City, and I actually like both teams to score there at even money. I don't think City are going to be afraid to let sort of Newcastle come at them, and knowing that they can sort of chase the game if they need to. I think that they won't necessarily mind, conceding a goal there, and of course Newcastle has been in good goal scoring form of late. They've obviously, as you mentioned earlier, guaranteed their place in the Premier League next year, so I think they'll kind of relax into this one, and I think someone like Callum Wilson or Joe Willock can definitely get a goal for them
off the bench.
off the bench, yeah. And then another one I liked the look of, and this is a stronger selection for me, is a Wolves double chance against Spurs. I mean, I couldn't believe this when I saw Spurs are 5-10 at home against anyone. Honestly, I just think they really are nowhere at the moment, and 5-10 on a for Spurs on a home win here, to me is just a very, very short price. And a Wolves double chance you can get at 17-10 with Sportingbet, which I think is very generous. So I think Wolves can definitely get a point out of this one. So 17-10 on the Wolves double chance looks like a good bet to me.
I did look at this game, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, ooh, this could be a good value one. But then again, it's two teams that I just can't really trust at the moment, especially with Spurs. So I understand the lean towards Wolves, and I would kind of lean that way as well. I just don't particularly trust Wolves that much, considering my recent betting history for and against them. They're kind of becoming like a mini Everton to me, where Spurs have always just been on the old shit list. So I think there is some value there. The double chance price is pretty good. 17-10 is what if you're getting that, I say go for that. I do fancy both teams to score on this one, maybe over 2.5, but I don't think I'll be getting too involved in this one, just because I don't trust either of these sides particularly much. Then we have some talk that I wanted to cover was some of the going-ons in Serie A, where Juventus find themselves in 5th place under Pirlo, just not having a great time. It's interesting to see how badly they're doing, considering the strength of their squad and the prestige of the club. Especially in Serie A, which is very much like, I want to say, similar to your La Ligas, where it's dominated by just a handful of teams. We've got Juventus sitting behind, or Inter in first place, 13 points clear. Atalanta, AC Milan, Napoli. And then we've got Juventus in fifth place. So not looking good for them. I mean, Champions League without Juventus. What are your thoughts on that? Like Ronaldo.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I mean, it's just as you mentioned, a league that's just been dominated. Same thing with La Liga, really, by 2 or 3 teams, and to see a prestigious club like that so far down the table it's got to beg a few questions.
Yeah, it does, and that moves me over to my next point, which is the La Liga table, which is something that I've been following somewhat closely, where we've got Atletico Madrid in the number 1 spot, and right behind them, or 2 points behind them, are Real Madrid and Barcelona. And Real Madrid actually kind of been almost thrown the league away. They were in a good position, and a couple of bad results for them just upset the apple cart. So I think it's really heating up in Spain at the moment. I just wonder if it's any of those 3 teams can really win it. It's all quality sides, and then you've got Sevilla bringing up 4th place with 71 points. But just to put this in a bit of perspective, so Sevilla are in 4th place on 71 points, and Real Sociedad are 15 points behind them in 5th place. 15 points is the gap between 4th and 5th. And the gap between 4th and 1st is only 6 points. But I mean, that's massive. It just shows how well those top 4 teams have been performing this season. Even if you're a Barca or Real Madrid fan, you'll probably say they've underperformed. But just compared to the rest of the league, that's just the quality, the gulf in quality. Which is kind of sad, but it's making for a good finish to the season. I'd rather have it end on the last day than be wrapped up weeks before.
Sure, and as you say, I mean, I'd rather have a couple teams who are, always kind of competitive, but not necessarily winning the league up there to obviously put the challenge on those bigger teams.
Yeah. And then, Simon, there was some motor racing in Spain over the weekend, some Formula One with Hamilton picking up yet another win. I'm sure you've got something to say about that.
Yeah, well, we got the same result as last week, but I must say it was a much more interesting race this time around. I think so often in F1, what it comes down to sort of the 2 different strategies the team employed in the race and kind of how these pan out. So just going back to qualifying quickly, which is obviously always very important. Hamilton edged out Verstappen only by a third of a split second. So obviously that's literally nothing. I mean, you can't even imagine an amount of time so short. But so Hamilton started in pole. But on Sunday, Verstappen took the lead very quickly. It was actually on the first corner. He went down the inside and took him and took over Hamilton. But Hamilton was able to kind of follow pretty closely, but not threaten a pass. So he wasn't close enough where he could actually pass Verstappen, but he was very closely behind him. And so what made this race much more interesting than last week, even though it was not exactly the most exciting finish in terms of Hamilton winning and Verstappen second and so on, was that was the tire changes. So this Barcelona track has got lots of twists and turns, and so it wears down the tires very quickly. And so for this race, Mercedes went for their 2 extra tires. They both went for mediums, but they went for one new set and one slightly used set. So as you can imagine, the slightly used set takes a little bit less time to warm up, but it obviously wears down a bit faster because it's already got some wear and tear in it. And then Red Bull went for one set of mediums and one set of softs. So soft tires are the ones that have more grip, but you can't push them for a long time because they wear down faster than mediums and hards. So with that sort of background, I hope I didn't lose too many people there. But with that sort of background information, so what Mercedes did was they put Hamilton into the pit stop early enough, so around lap 40, so that he could slowly gain on Verstappen because he had fresher tires. So, Hamilton's medium tires are going to last longer than Verstappen's soft tires always. So the speed advantage that Verstappen had in the beginning slowly deteriorated once his soft tires started to wear thin. And so based on that speed advantage then that Hamilton had over him because of his medium tires, which weren't wearing thin like Verstappen's, he could then overtake him. So what the Mercedes team planned was that that Hamilton would be able to overtake Verstappen in the second to last or final lap. But Hamilton, being the incredible driver he is, he actually managed to overtake Verstappen by the 60th lap. So there was still another 6 laps to go by the time that he overtook him. So it was just really, again, just like so many weeks.
Dominant performance. Yeah.
Dominant performance by Hamilton, but also just brilliant race planning from Mercedes. I think they just do this stuff so, they really, really thought about this, and they clearly didn't underestimate the track and how much it would eat the tires like Red Bull did. Red Bull thought they could push those old tires and get it, but they said, no, we'll pit early, and then, having also the pair of slightly used medium tires was just such a clever move. So again, not the most exciting result, but an absolutely brilliant race just in terms of tactics, and obviously Hamilton's brilliant driving. So it was actually a really good race besides the result, despite the results.
And looking ahead at the upcoming Monaco on the 20th of May, I see Hamilton is pretty heavily favoured there over Verstappen at even money now, and Verstappen is 2.4. So
we were talking about just last week. We were talking about leading up to this. I said Verstappen might move out to a price where he's backable. And I thought maybe Hamilton would definitely go under even money. He went to 1.5, so he was 5 to 10, and you could get 3.3 on Verstappen, which it seems a very backable price. And obviously, if you were watching for the first 40 laps, you would have been counting your money. If you didn't know too much about F1, you would be counting. Your money.
You'd have a runner for the first 40 laps, basically.
Right. But then
bet would be a runner.
Yeah, not taking into account, as just mentioned, Mercedes' brilliant tactics and the fact that Verstappen, although he was leading, was slowly losing time on Hamilton lap by lap. But yeah, it's interesting to see. And again, Hamilton obviously deserved favourite. But I'll be interested to see just how much love he gets and how short the prices get, because you're going to start seeing a lot of value on other drivers.
Yeah.
And, dangerous backing them, but I'll tell you what, it can pay off big time if you just get the right week.
It can, but unfortunately, you're going to need a really big, far-seeing crystal ball to see when that week's going to come. Because wow, it just with these two, it's hard to see anyone else picking up a win outside of unless there's some massive unless they crash into each other.
Exactly.
I think that's what everyone's kind of hoping for. But yeah, then over to the IPL, which has been called off now. They unfortunately, due to the, as you mentioned to me before the podcast, the new Indian strain that's burning its way through the country is just causing chaos everywhere. And those IPL stadiums had spectators in them, and so
as you said, Indian Cricket Board called off IPL indefinitely, and it was due to some players and support staff had tested positive for COVID. So I think it's such a huge blow for the world of cricket. It's not only the most watched cricket league in the world, but it's also the most lucrative for the country and the players. So it's really a big deal this was pulled off. So yeah, as you mentioned, India having a horrendous time with COVID, and I really hope that the country can kind of get a handle on things and life can kind of go back to normal. I think not having cricket in a country like India, who treats the sport like a religion, is really truly it's a sad state of affairs. So I hope it can come right soon.
Yeah, very, very big call there, but I guess it's the right thing to do considering the circumstances. But it is just unfortunate that they do find themselves in that set of circumstances, especially considering how well they were doing up until a few months ago. Pretty much having declared that they'd beaten COVID, and now it's just straight back into the thick of it. So hopefully that's going to blow over soon, and we can get back to some sporting action. But then again, if you look back to almost a year ago, what sports did we have on a year ago? Almost exactly nothing. There was
table tennis and little else.
Esports, virtual soccer and all of that. So that pretty much wraps up today's episode. Not too much else that's I think we need to touch on, unless there's anything else from your side, Simon.
No, that's it.
Perfect. Well, guys, thanks for tuning into this episode. Nothing major from my side. Simon does fancy a couple of bets, fancies Wolves. But I'm going to be keeping my powder dry. Perhaps I think for the Champions League and Europa League finals, where I think I will be having a decent stab. But guys, thanks for tuning into this episode, and we will catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Cheers.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to visit our site, Facebook and Twitter pages. Let's go make some money.